I spent 10 years in a military marriage with Ethan Lin, swallowing one humiliation after another. I was constantly at odds with my in-laws. Ethan even wrote to my supervisor, accusing me of being unfilial, which made people point fingers at me until I lost my job. His younger sister Sophie grabbed the jewelry my mother had left me as part of my dowry to use for her own wedding. Ethan said I didn't know how to yield and forced me to hand over the jewelry, or he would divorce me. When I went into labor, it was difficult and dangerous. Ethan called the hospital to say he couldn't get leave and told me to get through it on my own. After I delivered, he finally took family visit leave, not to see me, but to celebrate the birthday of his next-door childhood sweetheart, Emily Jo. I mustered my courage to demand an explanation, but instead I overheard him whispering to Emily, I only married her for her father's connections. Who could have known that her father would disappear for 10 years without a single word of whether he was alive or dead? Emily, don't worry, he said softly. Lisa has already had the baby. If you weren't afraid of the pain and unwilling to have children, how could I have ended up having a child with her? You're the only woman I've ever loved and respected. The only wife I acknowledge is you. My vision went black. My legs buckled and I crashed to the floor, my head hitting the wall as I lost consciousness. When I opened my eyes again, I had been reborn to the very last day of our marriage introduction, letter's validity. I stared, stunned, at the letter in my hands. Today was the day Ethan, Lynn and I were supposed to register our marriage. Tears welled up. It wasn't too late yet. Before I could even process the shock of rebirth, I grabbed the introduction letter and the application form, struck a match, and set them on fire. Before they finished burning, someone knocked on the door. Panicking, I shoved the papers into a ceramic basin and covered it, scattered the smoke and ash around the room and asked who it was. When I heard Ethan's familiar voice, my body trembled. That voice was so cold. In my previous life, it hadn't warmed in 10 years. Luckily, this time I was clear-headed. I would never again seek warmth from that walking ice sculpture. As it turns out, when hatred runs deep enough, it settles into a calm. Ever since my mother gave her life for her work, my father took over raising me. He taught me that when faced with major events, my heart should be still as water. My cards kept hidden until the moment came to strike back. In my last life, I failed to follow his advice. I tangled with the Lin family for 10 years and died. In this life, from this very moment, I would etch his teachings into my bones. In that other life, today was also the day my father left to work for a national security agency with no return date. He worried most about my future and knew I had long admired Ethan, so he lowered himself to negotiate with the Lin family. My father entrusted me to Ethan and even promised him an opportunity for promotion. Ethan readily agreed and swore he would treat me well for life. My father, before he left, put our house and all his property in my name, his only daughter. On the day we got our license, Ethan was called back to his unit on an emergency mission. We never even held a wedding. At first, his parents wouldn't introduce me to anyone. Later, when I became pregnant and they could no longer hide it, they grudgingly admitted I was their daughter-in-law. Though every word suggested I wasn't worthy of Ethan. The neighbors treated me decently at first because I brought both money and a home. His family of 4 moved straight into my 3-bedroom apartment. His parents took the master bedroom, Sophie chose the sunniest room, and I was forced into the smallest and worst one. Wanting to keep them satisfied, I didn't argue. But I forgot that human greed knows no bounds. Once Ethan got his promotion, and it became clear my father might never return, the Lin's face has changed. With no more use for me, my in-laws started picking at everything and clashing with me. I thought it was just petty family drama and tried to endure it in silence. I never expected my father-in-law to write to Ethan, and without confirming anything with me, Ethan wrote to my supervisor accusing me of being unfilial. My workplace was in the middle of a crackdown, making examples of people, and I ran right into the muzzle. I was dismissed on the spot. Crushed, I wanted to divorce Ethan. When my in-laws found out, they pushed him to take leave and come home, and he pinned me to the bed and humiliated me. Not long after, I was pregnant. For the sake of my child, I swallowed every grievance. But even that wasn't enough. While I was pregnant, Sophie was getting married and hinted that I should take out the jewelry my mother left me and lend it to her. I pretended not to understand. When my in-laws knew I was going alone for a prenatal checkup, they secretly stole the jewelry and handed it over to Sophie as her dowry. When I found out, I demanded they return it, but not only did they refuse, they even threatened me. They said if I insisted on making a fuss while pregnant, they would have Ethan file a report, accusing me of being unfilial and refusing to sacrifice for the family. Then he would divorce me, and I could see where a pregnant woman like me would end up. I wrote to Ethan, hoping he would defend me, but he replied that I was being unreasonable. As Sophie's sister-in-law, I was supposed to contribute for her wedding. He told me to hand over the jewelry, where else he would divorce me. My anger was so strong it caused abdominal pain, and I nearly miscarried. I was confined to bed for months, and Ethan never showed up once. My in-laws fed me leftovers. I sank into depression, and it was only the faint kicks of the baby inside me that kept me barely holding on. Later, the baby came prematurely, and I had a difficult delivery. The hospital contacted the military, but when they called Ethan, he just said all women gave birth this way and told them to let me manage on my own. I survived by the skin of my teeth and brought the child into the world, only for Ethan to take family visit leave afterward, not to see me or the baby, but to celebrate Emily Jo's birthday. He bought her gifts and a cake, treating her as though she were his real wife. All these memories echoed in my mind as I opened the door and saw Ethan standing there. My body trembled uncontrollably from disgust. If I weren't alone right now, I would have stabbed him just to let out the hatred. Ethan smiled at me and said, "Lisa, let's go get the marriage license." I clenched my fists to steady myself, afraid he might notice the change in my expression. I lowered my head and said, "Aren't you going back to the base tonight? Let's wait until you're done with work before we go." I only wanted to brush him off. A military marriage wasn't so easy. It required filing reports and approval. Since I had already burned our introduction letter, who knew when another one could be issued? Ethan looked at the top of my head, mistaking my silence for shyness. He reached out as if to pat me, but I instinctively stepped away. We both froze. I forced a pale explanation. "We're not married yet. Being too close might give people something to gossip about." We had never even built a foundation of love. He hadn't filed any romantic relationship report with the military. My father had pulled strings just to get the marriage report approved. Ethan said gently, "Once we register, you'll be my wife. By then, won't you even let me touch you? Why are you so shy?" His tone was tender and indulgent, but it made my skin crawl. I looked him straight in the eye and finally laid it bare. "I won't marry you." This man's heart had never once leaned toward me in an entire lifetime. Since that was the case, in this life, he would never use me as a stepping stone to climb higher. Ethan frowned. "Lisa," I frowned as well. "My name is Lisa. You can address me properly." Then I added evenly, "Comrade Lin, my father forcing you to marry me without any emotional foundation was indeed excessive. I can understand your feelings. If you had truly been willing, it wouldn't have been dragged out until the very last day. I, Lisa, have never liked forcing people into things. I've already thought it through. Since this rice hasn't been cooked, I won't eat it. In my previous life, the reason Ethan delayed registering was to pressure my father into offering more, until he was satisfied. As for me, dragging it out until the final day only made me cherish the marriage more once it happened, while giving him the perfect chance to vanish right after we got the license, keeping his distance. A clever ploy, taking advantage of my father's love for his daughter and my infatuation with him, all for the sake of his own ruthless ambition. Ethan's smile finally disappeared. He had worked so hard negotiating terms with my father, convinced everything was already set. He had imagined his glorious future, never expecting that I would be the one part of the plan to refuse. Remembering what my father had said to him and my obvious admiration for him, he steadied himself. His expression grew stern as he asked, "Lisa, are you truly certain you won't marry me?" His tone carried both gravity and threat, as if the moment I said no, he would cast me aside. But how could I possibly be unworthy of him? In terms of looks and figure, if I dared call myself second in this town, no one would dare claim first. I had the education, the family background, and a decent life on my own. Marrying me was him reaching above his station, yet he made it seem as though he were doing me a favor, like his father was some sort of emperor. I couldn't hold back and corrected him. "Comrade Lin, please call me Comrade Shang." "Comrade Shang, are you really sure you don't want to register the marriage with me?" he asked, as if granting me one last chance to regret. But I didn't want it. Comrade Lin, I'm very sure, since we're not getting married, then forget about the work opportunity you asked my father for. Otherwise, people will say you'd sacrifice anything for the sake of a promotion. That wouldn't sound good at all. The moment my words fell, Ethan's expression shifted several times. So you knew about this, and that's why you won't marry me. It's true. I did ask my superior for that opportunity, but it wasn't selfish. It was to secure a better life for you. Right now, I'm just an ordinary soldier. Even if I earn family leave, it's only once a year. How can we nurture a relationship like that? Besides, I only asked your father for a recommendation. If I wasn't qualified, no one would let me advance anyway. You really don't need to refuse me just because of that. In my past life, maybe I would have believed Ethan's lies. But after betrayal and brushes with death, my mind was clearer than if someone had slapped me awake. I looked at him coldly, my tone steady. Comrade Lin, my father misunderstood and took it upon himself to decide for me. But in my heart, I do not love you, and I will not marry you. You can find someone else. I started to close the door, but Ethan suddenly grabbed it, not letting me shut him out. My eyes instantly sharpened with vigilance. For a brief moment, his expression hardened. But when I looked again, his face had returned to gentleness. Comrade Shang, do you still have some misunderstanding about me? You should say it out loud. Problems need to be solved, not left to fester in silence. Did someone tell you something? As for Emily Zhu, she and I are just friends. So he finally brought up Emily, the woman who grew up next door, his childhood sweetheart. His words from my past life still rang in my ears. He had always loved Emily, and it was truly a grievance for her that he had to put up with being tied to a woman he didn't love. Comrade Lin, I said evenly. I've already told you. The one I love is not you. My father was mistaken. I had originally thought of going along with it and marrying you, but I can't get past the hurdle in my heart. I can't spend my life with someone I don't love. I hope you understand. Even if you don't, that's fine. I'm only informing you. I pried his hand off the door and shut it, cutting off his gaze. Ethan Lin, you and I are finished. Through the window, I watched him leave. Then I went out and headed straight to my father's office. Thankfully, Ethan didn't know where my father worked, or else he might have gotten there before me. My father had just finished handing over his work. When he saw me, he smiled. Lisa, have you already gotten the license? Where's Ethan? He looked behind me, saw no one and chuckled. I took my father's arm and led him away, speaking softly. Dad, I didn't marry Ethan. Why? Were you fond of that boy? My father was puzzled. He had spent a great deal of effort and connections on this matter. And now, just when everything was about to settle, I suddenly changed my mind. He was stunned. I brought him to a tea house and carefully explained my plan. Dad, I don't think marriage is my safeguard. You know that Ethan and I don't have the same foundation. We have no common language. Before, I was only blinded by his appearance. But you've always taught me that people can only rely on themselves. If you depend on a mountain, the mountain will collapse. If you depend on a person, that person will walk away. So instead of helping Ethan rise in rank, why not help me find a good job? Once I'm stable, I'll meet excellent comrades in the future. And even if I never marry, I can still secure my own life. That way, you can serve the country with peace of mind. My father looked at me with deep thought, then sighed from the bottom of his heart. So you've suddenly woken up. I thought you were going to stay lost in that love sickness. So it turned out my father had always known Ethan Lin wasn't a good man. But because I liked him, he tried his best to make Ethan worthy of me. In truth, my father had already made 2 plans for me. Comrade Lin is decent, he said, but his kind of good isn't the kind you need. A shrimp may be good in its way, but for a young eagle it's useless. Nothing more than a snack. If you follow him, sooner or later you'll suffer greatly. After all, from the beginning, your bond was based on interests, and that kind of relationship was never pure. I'm glad you've thought it through. I've already spoken to Uncle Ming. Starting tomorrow, you'll go to his place of work. He said he'd find a mentor to guide you. From then on, your life will be yours to arrange. I'll focus on my research and come back as soon as I can. Thank you, Dad. My eyes filled with tears. My father had given his whole life to the country, and the fact that he still thought about me proved how deeply he loved me. As for Comrade Lin, I said coldly, since I'm not marrying him, you don't need to help him anymore. My father nodded. That's true, but that boy has a deep mind. After I leave, you must be careful in dealing with him. He probably won't give up easily on this promotion opportunity. My father's insight was sharp, and my heart sank. After a brief pause, his expression softened, and he smiled. Enough, come have a good meal with me first. I smiled and went with my father to a restaurant. After sending him off, I returned home and checked the locks and windows carefully. That's when I discovered the half-burned marriage introduction letter in the ceramic basin was gone. But I couldn't call anyone to help me, since nothing of value had been stolen, and I had no desire to expose my entanglement with Ethan. Maybe that was exactly why he had the audacity to break into my house and take the letter, because he knew I wouldn't dare make it public. I quickly packed clothes and my important belongings, then kept a knife by my side, ready to spend the night on guard. At dawn, I would go straight to the unit my father had arranged. He'd already said someone would prepare a dormitory for me, and tomorrow I could move in. Suddenly, there was a knock at the door, shattering my thoughts. My scalp prickled, and my hand holding the knife trembled uncontrollably. If it was Ethan outside, he was tall and strong. How could I possibly protect myself? Would shouting for help even matter? Would it come down to a fight where both of us were destroyed? But deep down, I only wanted him to die while I lived. Then a man's voice called, "I'm Ming Xiao. Uncle Shang should have mentioned me. I've come to take you to the dormitory." The voice didn't sound like Ethan's. And yes, my father had said Uncle Ming would arrange for someone to look after me. I opened the door. Ming Xiao stood tall before me, with a commanding presence that strangely put me at ease. I froze for a moment, not expecting Uncle Ming to send his own son to help me. "Have you packed your things?" he asked. "Uncle Shang called my father, worried about your safety alone. He asked me to take you to the dorm tonight." Ming Xiao seemed a bit helpless himself. He had been at work, but with just one phone call from his father, he couldn't refuse. The Ming family held a special status, and even if he didn't like the task, he had no choice. At first, he must have wondered how a girl could possibly be unsafe, but when he saw my face, I could tell he understood my father's concern. I quickly picked up my things, smiled and said, "I'm ready." "Thank you, Comrade Ming." I knew his family held high positions, so I couldn't presume too much. Ming Xiao only grunted. "It's no trouble, but I haven't eaten yet." I blinked, then hurriedly said, "What would you like?" "The Seeing restaurant should still be open." "I'll treat you." Ming Xiao looked easygoing. "If you're treating, you decide." I realized he was trying to keep me from feeling indebted, but it was late, and the state-run restaurants had already closed. Even Seeing had only a few places still open. In the end, I could only treat him to a bowl of beef noodles. When we stepped out of the restaurant after eating, we ran right into Ethan, Lin, and Sophie. Sophie's eyes lit up when she saw us. "Isn't this my sister-in-law? How could you be out with a strange man?" "Sister-in-law, how can you do this to my brother?" Sophie stepped forward and immediately began questioning me, while Ethan's sharp eyes turned on Ming Xiao, scrutinizing him. "This comrade," I snapped, "watch your mouth. Whatever relationship I have with others is none of your concern, and don't you dare call me sister-in-law. I've already made things clear with Comrade Lin. I will not marry him. I'm sure he's already gotten the message. My father has spoken to the right people, and Ethan Lin will never again benefit from my family." As expected, Ethan's face darkened. He stepped forward to block Ming Xiao and me, demanding, "So you're refusing to marry me because of this man?" My head grew hot from the provocation, and I blurted out, "That's right. I like a gentleman like Comrade Ming. His family background and character are excellent, and he's a good match for me. I've made it clear. I don't like you. If you sneak into my house again, I'll report you to the police." I knew there were no surveillance cameras in this era. No hard proof that Ethan had broken into my home. I was only trying to rattle him, and sure enough, he took the bait. "I didn't go to your house." He burst out in a panic. Then he added, "Let me tell you, I've already reapplied for our marriage registration report and taken leave. If you think we need to get closer first, then we'll get closer. I've already submitted a dating report too." So Ethan still refused to let me go. He'd even filed a romance report with the organization, forcing the matter forward. But I wanted nothing to do with him. Just the thought of seeing his face made me feel filthy. I snapped, "What's wrong with your brain, Comrade Lin? I told you. I don't like you. I like Comrade Ming. Do you really think you're worthy of me? If you don't get it when I put it politely, then I'll say it plainly." Sophie lunged at me, nearly striking my face, but Ming Xiao caught her wrist midair. His eyes flashed a sharp warning. "Comrade, it's wrong to hit people." Sophie, who was used to throwing her weight around only at home, shrank back immediately under his gaze, and hid behind Ethan. In my past life, Sophie only acted powerful in her own house. Later, I realized she had always been jealous that I held an official job, which was why she constantly turned her parents against me and wrote letters to Ethan complaining about me. Her goal had been to push me out of my job so she could take it for herself. In the end, I was fired. But when Sophie went to my workplace asking for my position, she was thrown out in humiliation. Afterward, she set her sights on my jewelry instead. This time, she would never get the chance to use her filthy schemes against me again. Sophie clutched Ethan's arm, but her eyes darted toward Mingxiao. The moment she saw his sharp, chiseled features, she froze in shock, her gaze quickly filling with infatuation. "Comrade Shang really is my sister-in-law," she muttered. She and my brother already filed the marriage registration report. They were supposed to get the license today. "Don't let this two-timing woman fool you." Her shameless words made me flush with embarrassment. I didn't know how to explain it to Mingxiao. Just earlier, in my haste, I'd said I liked him, but I was afraid he might misunderstand and think I had ulterior motives. He was only here to help. If he got dragged into my mess, it really wouldn't be fair. I was just about to clarify when Mingxiao said coolly, "Comrade Shang already made it very clear just now. She doesn't like your brother. And as for getting a marriage license, hasn't it not even happened yet? Besides, does a marriage certificate guarantee anything? There are plenty of people who get one only to later pick up the divorce certificate. And more importantly, has your brother ever explained clearly why he wants to marry Comrade Shang?" At that, Ethan's face twisted. "Of course, it's because I like Comrade Shang that I want to marry her. The only reason she suddenly changed her mind is because of your lies. You'd better explain it to her right now." He strode forward, trying to intimidate Mingxiao with his presence. But who was Mingxiao? A true second-generation cotter, already holding a high position himself. The moment he released a fraction of his aura, Ethan couldn't withstand it. Standing side by side, Ethan was 4 centimeters shorter than Mingxiao. In that moment, it was clear who was the dragon and who was the worm. I said firmly, "My refusal to marry you has nothing to do with Comrade Ming. The reason is simple. I don't like you, Ethan. And Sophie, watch your tongue in the future. Otherwise, it won't be good for your brother's career either." So, was threatening people supposed to make him great? I also knew that since my father had already spoken to people, Ethan Lin had lost the opportunity in future he was about to gain. If they pushed me too far, I was certain one threat from me would remind them of consequences they couldn't bear. Sure enough, Ethan and Sophie didn't press the matter any further. They could only watch as I got into Mingxiao's car and left. Sophie's face twisted with resentment. "Brother, are you really going to give up on Lisa just like that? He used to like her so much. How could you suddenly not like her anymore? Did she find out about you and Emily Jo?" "Shut up. I'll get to the bottom of this. But if I hear you running your mouth with any more nonsense before then, don't expect me to help you in the future." "Brother, I'm just worried about you." Sophie said, still sulking. Then her eyes lit up mischievously. "Brother, who was that guy just now? He looked so handsome, and he even had a car. If I could meet someone like him, he'd definitely like me. Then sister-in-law would have no choice but to like you." Ethan pressed his lips together, his expression growing even colder. He knew Sophie's wishful thinking was as ridiculous as expecting gold nuggets to fall from the sky. Mingxiao drove me to the dormitory, spoke to the administrator, and made sure my bed was arranged before leaving for work. I didn't think too much of it, but the next day, I unexpectedly saw Mingxiao again. "Comrade Shang, we meet again," he said. I was actually quite happy. Mingxiao gave off a sense of security, without me needing to fawn over him. His gaze held only genuine admiration, nothing more. "I just read your file," he said seriously. "I should tell you. I'll be your mentor. From now on, you'll follow me as an intern. You have to work hard. If not, you won't get converted to full-time." His tone was strict. I immediately nodded obediently. A colleague nearby chuckled. "Why are you scaring the young lady? She's only just graduated. You're nearly 30. How can you say that with a straight face?" "I'll work hard," I said quickly. I didn't feel like Mingxiao was intimidating me, just that he was serious and responsible about his work. "You two are a natural pair of partners," the colleague teased. Go on. I won't be the third wheel." Laughing, they left. I felt a bit embarrassed, but thankfully, Mingxiao didn't seem to pay attention to the comment. After work, I saw Ethan again. He was standing there with a bouquet of flowers, and by his side was Emily Shao. My hand tightened around my notebook. If killing weren't illegal, I would have gladly sent those two hypocrites to the grave together. Ethan stepped forward and held the flowers out to me. "Comrade Shang," he said, "I want to talk to you properly. I specially invited Comrade Zhao today, so we can make everything clear." I didn't say those things. What I had never gained in my past life, I didn't care for now. "I think I already made myself clear yesterday," I said coldly, stepping around him. But Emily blocked my path. "Comrade Shang, you must have misunderstood my relationship with Ethan. We just grew up together and went to school together. Don't listen to what others say. Ethan treats me like a sister. Yesterday, he told me you misunderstood us, and that's why you refused to get the marriage license. I felt so ashamed, I couldn't sleep all night. I thought I owed you an explanation." Ethan even had the gall to bring her along and spin such a tale. In my past life, I had seen the two of them wrapped in each other's arms, whispering and laughing. Now they were working together, united in their lies, all to corner me. Suppressing my disgust, I looked up at Ethan and said sternly, "Comrade Lin, you're overthinking this. The reason I don't like you has nothing to do with you being ambiguous with someone else. It's simply because I don't like you." Ethan's face tightened. "I've never been ambiguous with anyone else. I can swear on my military career. If I ever act improper with anyone but you, may my career be cut short and my life ruined." Heaven, did you hear that? I screamed silently in my heart. Hurry and strike this bastard down with lightning. I've already decided. It's over between us. No one's words can change my mind, I said firmly. If you two come again, I'll have security throw you out. Ethan clenched his teeth. So you really do like Ming Xiao? I suddenly realized he was still misunderstanding, but I didn't want to explain. Comrade Ming is indeed outstanding. It's perfectly normal for me to like him. What does he have that I don't? Ethan demanded. Is it just because he has a good family and a good father? Lisa Shang, are you really that shallow? I couldn't help but laugh in anger. This man was unbelievable. He had been the one marrying me for status, and now that he couldn't get me, he had the nerve to turn it around and call me shallow. Yes, I'm shallow, I sneered. Too bad your family doesn't have the identity or status I could ever value. Keeps himself awareness and stop bothering me in the future. With that, I pulled Ming Xiao away. Only after we had gone far enough, confirming Ethan and Sophie hadn't followed, did I release his arm. "Comrade Ming, I'm sorry," I said softly. What I said just now was only to make Ethan back off. "Let me treat you to dinner to make up for it. Please don't hold it against me." I felt guilty for dragging him into this, but I couldn't spell everything out in front of Ethan, or else he would only cling to me harder. "I even thought you really liked me," Ming Xiao said with a chuckle. I was happy for a second. I flushed. "Comrade Ming, you're so outstanding. I'm sure many women like you. Anyway, what would you like to eat? Yesterday, I didn't treat you properly. Today, I have to make it up with something good. Whatever you want, you decide." He replied casually. Why was it always the same line? My father once said that if a man willingly listens to a woman in everything, she should cherish him. He himself had tried listening to my mother and had summed it up as life's wisdom. The thought flashed by, and I quickly forced myself to stay clear-headed. What was I thinking? Right now, I need to focus on adapting to my new job, not embarrassing my father, and most importantly, making Ethan give up on me for good. Ming Xiao seemed to read my thoughts. Suddenly he said, "How about this? Tonight you treat me to braised pork knuckle, and I'll help you deal with Ethan." I stopped and looked at him seriously. "Why would you help me?" Walking ahead without pausing, he answered brightly, "Let's just say it's a good deed. Maybe it'll even bring me some good karma." I didn't know what method he used, but somehow, even though Ethan had taken half a month of leave, the very next day he was summoned back to his unit. Before leaving, he came looking for me, but I didn't even step out of my office. Not long after he left, his family started showing up at my door. First was Sophie, who used the excuse of visiting me just to try and see Ming Xiao. But Ming Xiao was busy. Aside from mentoring me, he didn't even spare a glance for others. Sophie got nothing out of me. Security didn't even let her pass the gate. Then Ethan's mother couldn't hold back anymore. She started bringing me food, but I had no intention of eating anything she made. In my past life, she always fed me leftovers, saying I was already living a life of comfort. She used to tell me that when she was pregnant, she still took care of the whole family, washing clothes on her knees, and that making me do the same was my fortune. I was grateful that in this life that so-called fortune wasn't mine anymore. Lisa, she said, with an eager smile, I heard from Ethan you like sweet and sour dishes. So today I made sweet and sour pork just for you. It's hard to buy such good cuts of meat. You should really try some. Her eyes gleamed with calculation, as though expecting me to feel indebted and moved. I flatly refused. Mrs. Lin, I'm not close with Comrade Lin, and I don't like sweet and sour food. Since the meat is so expensive, you should keep it for yourselves. Please don't come again. I've already made things clear with your son. If you really have free time, why not send this to Comrade Zhao instead? Maybe you can help match your son with her. What? Emily Zhu. Her smile froze. So it's her. I knew that little fox was up to no good. Lisa, don't worry. You're the daughter-in-law I truly want in my heart. Ethan, he was just confused for a while. Don't worry, Lisa. Auntie will stand up for you, Mrs. Lin said earnestly. It has nothing to do with me. I replied coldly. She smiled and shook her head. Auntie knows it has nothing to do with you. Don't worry. I'll give you an explanation. With that, she left. Inside, I sneered. The real show was about to begin. In order to keep Emily Zhao from interfering in her son's prospects, Mrs. Lin went to the factory and made a scene, accusing Emily of seducing Ethan. The factory immediately began an investigation. In the end, they discovered Emily wasn't seducing Ethan at all. She had been involved with another man, a married deputy director. When the truth came out, Emily, just a temporary worker, was fired on the spot. Afterward, the whole neighborhood gossiped about her, pointing fingers. She then wrote a letter to Ethan, hoping he would take responsibility for her. But Ethan was desperate to prove himself to his superiors. During a dangerous mission, he threw himself to the front line and ended up with an arm and a leg badly injured by an explosion. Emily saw him when he was half dead. She was ruthless too. Knowing she had no real future left, she clung to the Lin family, insisting on serving Ethan no matter what. Yet when no one else was around, she revealed her true face, full of disdain, ridiculing Ethan for being useless. Ethan lay in bed, tasting the warmth and coldness of the world. Deep down, he knew he would never rise again. All he could do was accept Emily's care. Their wedding was a rushed affair. One day, Ethan came to deliver wedding candies to me, rolling himself in on a wheelchair. I looked at him, his face full of defeat, without a trace of the confidence and vigor he had once flaunted in my past life. Even after earning military merit, his dreams hadn't been fulfilled. I still couldn't win back your heart. He said bitterly, Lisa, why did we end up so far apart? Comrade Shang, we were never walking the same path. No matter how far we went, our destinations would never be the same. But tell me, why did you suddenly refuse to marry me back then? Can't you at least give me the truth? I looked at Ethan calmly, then suddenly laughed, a laugh full of release. His eyes reddened. What if I told you I had a dream? In that dream, I did marry you. I thought you would cherish me. But on the very day we got our license, you left me alone with your parents and sister. They ganged up on me, bullying and humiliating me, taking over my house and my jewelry. And you always stood by their side, helping them against me. Even the child I bore was forced on me by you. When I died, I finally understood. Even having that child was thanks to Emily Zhu, who refused to bear one herself because she was afraid of pain. The way you all preyed on me when my father was gone was disgusting. That's why I don't want to marry you. Why I refuse to be tortured to death by your family. Is that reason enough? The more I spoke, the darker Ethan's face became. Although this life's path was different from the last, I knew human hearts don't change easily. Different paths still lead to the same end, and in this life, Ethan's end was my revenge. Now seeing him living a fate worse than death, I felt utterly satisfied. So that's it, he muttered. So that's really it. His spirit seemed crushed. He wheeled himself away clumsily, escaping in disgrace. I tossed the wedding candy he gave me onto the ground. Comrade, the janitor scolded. Everyone has a duty to protect the environment. How can you litter? My half-pleasure instantly deflated, and I hurried to pick it up. Muttering under my breath, I tossed the candy into the trash bin. Behind me, the old man kept lecturing. You young comrades don't appreciate the hard work of the people. Throwing candy away like that is such a waste, such good candy. My teeth are still good. If you don't want it, I'll eat it. I walked away quickly. My probation soon ended, and I was officially made a full-time employee. Mingshu stopped mentoring me directly, letting me handle work on my own. He seemed extremely busy, but Sophie still hadn't given up, and she often came looking for him. One day, Mingshu walked in from outside, grabbed me by the arm and said, "Comrade Shang, urgent favor needed." "What's the emergency?" I asked. "Pretend to be my girlfriend. Help me get rid of Sophie." I was taken aback, then couldn't help but smile. I had once told Ethan I liked Mingshu, using him as an excuse. Now that I had a chance to return the favor, of course I was willing to help him. Since I had no plans to find a man so soon, and Mingshu wasn't about to go around announcing I was his girlfriend, neither of our reputations would suffer much. It seemed fair enough, so I followed Mingshu downstairs to meet Sophie. Sophie, copying her brother, had bought flowers for Mingshu. When she saw him coming, she smiled brightly, but the moment she noticed me, her face turned cold. "Why are you here?" "I only wanted to see Comrade Ming." "Then why are you meeting my boyfriend?" I asked. Her eyes widened, and she snorted through her nose. "What? Since when was he your boyfriend?" "From the very beginning. Didn't I say the one I liked was Comrade Ming?" I answered smoothly. "When I broke up with your brother, I made it very clear. Don't pretend you don't know. That was just to trick my brother. How could you possibly like Comrade Ming? I'm the one who likes him." I knew exactly what Sophie was thinking. She believed in the old saying that persistence wears down the best of men. She thought that by constantly showing up in front of Mingshu and making a spectacle of herself in front of others, she could claim the position of his rightful partner. I smiled provocatively. "But what can you do if Comrade Ming doesn't want your affection, only mine? Our feelings aren't the same. I buy him watches, bicycles, even suits. Oh, and by the way, even Comrade Ming's underwear is from me. Do you really think these cheap flowers you bought mean anything to him? Love without commitment is worthless. Neither of us need that kind of cheap affection. Give these flowers to someone else." Sophie stamped her foot. "Lisa Shang, don't go too far. This is too far." I shot back, still playing my part. "I've already decided to get engaged to Comrade Ming. When the time comes, I'll send you wedding candy." "Oh, Comrade Shang, Comrade Ming, congratulations, congratulations," someone nearby shouted. "At last, you two lovers are becoming a pair." So it was Comrade Shang who made the first move. I was wondering why our aloof Comrade Ming was so willing to mentor a trainee. Turns out he was training his own wife, the daughter of the Shang family and the son of the Ming family. It's a perfect match, such a talented man and beautiful woman, truly well-suited. Before I realized it, a small crowd had gathered around us, having heard everything. Ming Xiao leaned closer and whispered with a crooked grin, "Now what?" "I think they heard the part about my underwear being bought by you. You'll have to take responsibility for me." The corners of his lips twitched, trying and failing to hold back laughter. Sophie pointed at us, sputtering, "You're bullying me." Then she ran off, her footsteps pounding, only to crash into a bicycle because she wasn't watching the road. She fell hard and wailed loudly. Amidst the murmurs and laughter of the crowd, I covered my face and fled back to the office. I thought that would be the end of it, but then I received a phone call from my father, who had somehow heard about the incident. His voice was stern. "Lisa, the Shang family has always been a family of responsibility. Since you even bought Ming Xiao's underwear, this has affected his reputation greatly. For both your sakes, you and Ming should hurry up and get married." "Dad, listen to me." "That's not, let me explain." "No explanations. Phone calls cost money. Don't waste public resources. Let me know after you're married." The line clicked dead. I scratched my head in frustration. How had things spiraled this far? Yet Ming Xiao didn't avoid me. Instead, he came over and asked seriously, "What do you really think?" I answered honestly, "I just wanted to help you. I never thought about marrying you." He chuckled. "I'm not such a bad option. Aside from being older than you, I'd treat you well. Older men know how to care for their wives. I'm tall, strong, handsome, and you wouldn't suffer marrying me. Plus, I actually listen to my wife. Don't you want a man who listens?" "I mean, I do," I admitted cautiously. But just then, a woman's voice came from behind us. "Lisa Shang, I'm Ming Xiao's mother. I came here today on business, but I thought I'd invite you to dinner as well." She stepped into the office, only to see Ming Xiao leaning close, speaking to me earnestly. Her eyes widened, then she immediately turned away. "Oh, you two go on, go on." Ming Xiao quickly straightened, waving his hands. "Mom, I'm not busy." "I'm not busy at all. I wanted the ground to swallow me whole. In all my life, this was only the second time I'd been so utterly embarrassed. God helped me." What kind of fate was this? You two talk. I'm not in a rush. I just came to handle some business with your director, Ming Xiao's mother said, walking off without even looking back. I instinctively reached out, wanting to stop her, but no words came. Why was it that the more I tried to explain, the deeper I sank with Ming Xiao? He took the chance to clasp my hand, laughing under his breath. I think you'd better just give in to me. Otherwise, with my reputation ruined like this, I won't be able to find anyone else in the future. You have to take responsibility for me. Looking at his handsome face, his tall and strong figure, and most importantly, knowing he had the strength to protect me, I couldn't deny it at my heart stirred. I wasn't hesitating anymore. If that's the case, I said we can get engaged first. Ming Xiao's expression turned serious, but my mom already checked the calendar for us. She said this September is the most auspicious date for marriage. There won't be another one like it for 3 years. Comrade Shang, I'm requesting that we marry first and fall in love after. My cheeks burned. I lowered my voice and said, approved. After our marriage, both of us were busy with work. My father wasn't able to come back for the wedding, but he called to give his blessing. My performance at work gained recognition from my superiors. And naturally, because of my relationship with Ming Xiao, our assignments were arranged in different departments. The atmosphere in the Ming household was warm and welcoming. After the wedding, we were given a 2-bedroom apartment near our workplace, and on weekends, we returned to his family home. Once on the road, I happened to see Ethan Lin and Emily Zhao holding paperwork, heading to finalize their divorce. I overheard Emily sneering that Ethan wasn't a real man. I only glanced up them, then held onto Ming Xiao's arm and walked away. Whether Ethan lived or died no longer mattered to me. Later, I heard from colleagues that Ethan divorced because Emily had cheated. The Lin parents clashed bitterly with her, fighting over every penny until the household was in chaos. After the divorce, Emily remarried and became pregnant, but when she went back to provoke the Lins with her big belly, Ethan's parents pinned her down and forced an abortion. The two of them were sent to the police station. Sophie, afraid of being implicated, cut ties with the family and ran away. Ethan was left alone in that house. A week later, neighbors reported a foul smell. The police broke in and discovered he had already been dead for several days, having overdosed on sleeping pills. When I heard this, my heart was calm. They had simply received what they deserved, and I had finally gained the life I truly deserved. I looked at Ming Xiao, then at our son, standing there with Ming Xiao and our little boy. I finally understood what peace felt like. I had walked through betrayal, humiliation, and even death in another lifetime. But this time, I chose differently. I no longer clung to illusions of love from a cold-hearted man or the false warmth of a greedy family. Instead, I built a life with someone who respected me, a home filled with laughter rather than silence, and a future shaped by my own hands. The past had already buried itself. Ethan, Emily, Sophie, and the entire Lin family had collapsed under the weight of their own choices. I no longer hated them because hatred belonged to yesterday. What I held now was my son's tiny hand, the strength of Ming Xiao's presence, and the certainty that I had finally reclaimed my destiny. I smiled, tears stinging my eyes, and whispered to myself, this time I lived for me,